Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're talking all things secondhand, specifically in France.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's this new study from 2023 by Novoscope
Oh,
called
yeah.
Marché de la Seconde Main 2023.
Straightforward.
Yeah, they get right to the point. And honestly, the findings are pretty mind-blowing. Like, did you know that
What did they find?
nearly 3 out of every 4 French people bought something secondhand in 2023?
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, secondhand is definitely having a moment.
More than a moment, it's becoming mainstream. I mean, we're not just talking vintage clothes here. This is everything. Furniture, electronics, books, you name it.
It's true. I think there's been a real shift in how people view secondhand shopping. It's not just about saving money anymore. It's about sustainability, finding unique pieces, and even supporting a more circular economy.
Yeah, and this study really digs into all of that. For example, it found that secondhand shopping in France has seen a massive increase since 2021. We're talking a 9% jump, which means now 75% of the population is buying pre-loved goods.
That's a huge increase in just 2 years. Clearly, something's resonating with people.
Right. And it's not just a one-time thing either. This study shows that 40% of people who buy secondhand are doing it at least once a month.
Wow, so it's become a regular part of their shopping routine.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is who's driving this trend. It's not just the stereotypical image of students or the hipsters on a budget.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not just that anymore.
It's families, especially moms. They're a major force in this market.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Moms are often the ones managing the household budget and making sure everyone has what they need. So it's natural that they'd be drawn to the affordability and practicality of secondhand shopping.
Totally. And maybe they're also more aware of the environmental impact of their choices, especially when it comes to kids' stuff, which they grow out of so quickly.
Yeah, definitely. There are so many factors at play here. It's like a perfect storm of economic, environmental, and even social trends coming together to reshape how we think about consumption.
Okay, so let's talk about who's buying all this pre-loved stuff. According to the study, people between the ages of 25 and 44 are the most active buyers. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Right in the middle. It seems like my generation is really embracing the secondhand lifestyle.
Makes sense. And what about the other age groups?
Well, the study found that while people over 55 are a bit slower to adopt secondhand shopping, they're definitely starting to come around.
That's encouraging. It shows that this trend has the potential to reach across generations.
And then you have Gen Z, who are just coming of age and are already super comfortable with the idea of buying used. They've grown up with online marketplaces and are used to finding deals and expressing their individuality through secondhand fashion.
It's like secondhand is becoming the new normal for them.
Exactly. And that's a really positive sign for the future of the secondhand market.
Okay, so now let's dive into what people are actually buying. I'm sure you can guess what's at the top of the list.
I'd say clothing, probably.
You got it. Clothing makes up a whopping 48% of all secondhand purchases. And get this, it's seen a huge jump in the last year, like a 12% increase.
That's wild. I guess fashion is always changing, and secondhand offers a way to stay stylish without breaking the bank.
Totally. Who wants to spend a fortune on clothes that might be out of style next season?
Exactly. It's much more sustainable and budget-friendly to go the secondhand route.
Okay, so after clothes, what are people buying?
Coming in a close second is what they call culture products. So things like books, music, movies, all that good stuff. That category is at 45% of purchases, with a 6% increase from the previous year.
And what about furniture and decor?
Yeah, that's gaining traction too. Up 5% from the year before, now it's at 34% of secondhand purchases.
It's like this trend is hitting every aspect of our lives, from the clothes we wear to the books we read to the furniture in our homes. Secondhand is everywhere.
And a big reason for that is the rise of what we call consumer-to-consumer selling.
C2C.
Yeah. Basically, it means people are buying and selling directly to each other thanks to online platforms like, Vinted and Leboncoin.
So it's like a giant online flea market.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this C2C model is really fueling the growth of the market. I mean, the study found that 46% of people have increased their secondhand purchases just in the past year alone.
Really?
Yeah. And even more impressive is that 45% plan to buy even more pre-loved goods in the future.
So this isn't just a passing fad. It's like a fundamental shift in how people are thinking about consumption.
Exactly. And you'd think that the main reason for this shift is the environmental impact, right? Like wanting to save the planet and all that.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Well, it turns out it's not that simple.
Oh, what is it then?
Money. And the study actually found that the primary motivator for 2 out of 3 buyers is save money. Makes sense with the rising cost of living and all that.
Yeah, I guess it does. So does that mean the whole eco-friendly aspect of secondhand shopping is just a myth?
Not necessarily. The study also found that ecological concerns are definitely a factor, especially when it comes to items that don't get used as often, like, tools or small appliances.
So it's like people are thinking, why buy new when I can give something a second life and save some cash at the same time?
Precisely. It's about making smart, sustainable choices that align with both our values and our wallets.
So it seems like even if saving money is the initial draw, there's still a growing awareness of the environmental impact of our choices.
Definitely. And that's a really encouraging sign.
It is. It means people are starting to understand that buying secondhand is a win-win for both their wallets and the planet. But even with all this growth and awareness, there are still some challenges in the market. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Despite all the positive trends, there's still a lot of hesitation among buyers, particularly when it comes to the risks involved in buying used goods.
Yeah, I can see that. It can be a bit nerve-wracking, especially when you're buying from an individual seller rather than a store. You don't always know what you're going to get.
Exactly. And the study found that a surprising 77% of French people still have concerns about buying secondhand. The biggest worry, lack of guarantees, which is understandable, especially when it comes to things like electronics or appliances where functionality is key.
I get it. It's a gamble. But it seems like people are starting to find ways to mitigate that risk.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, the study found that a whopping 85% of secondhand buyers always verify the seller and check the product's condition before committing to buying anything.
So they're doing their due diligence.
Mhm.
That's smart. It shows that people are becoming more savvy and taking precautions to protect themselves.
Absolutely. It's like a new set of consumer skills is emerging in the secondhand market. People are learning how to assess value, negotiate prices, and verify authenticity. It's a whole new ballgame.
Totally. It's like a whole new world of shopping is opening up with its own rules and strategies.
Exactly. But what does all this mean for the future of the secondhand market in France? And more importantly, what insights can we draw from this data?
One of the biggest takeaways for me is that the secondhand market presents a huge opportunity for brands, especially if they can find ways to address those lingering consumer concerns we talked about.
That's fascinating. So you're saying brands have a role to play in this growing market, even though it's mostly driven by consumer-to-consumer transactions.
Absolutely. Imagine if established brands started offering certified pre-owned products with guarantees that you just can't get from a private seller. That could be a real game changer in terms of building trust and attracting even more buyers.
I can totally see that. Having that stamp of approval from a known brand could really make a difference, especially for someone who's hesitant about buying used electronics or appliances. But are brands willing to embrace this shift? And what would that even look like in practice? I guess we'll have to explore that in the next part of our conversation. Okay, so where do we go from here? I mean, we know the secondhand market in France is booming, but there are still some hurdles to overcome, especially around trust.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge right now. How do you make buying used feel as safe and secure as buying new? Especially for those big ticket items like electronics or appliances.
Exactly. I mean, I love a good bargain, but I also want to make sure I'm not getting ripped off. So how do we build that trust in the secondhand market?
Well, one idea is for brands to play a more active role.
Yeah.
What if they started offering certified pre-owned products? Kind of like what you see with used cars, where you get a warranty and peace of mind knowing it's been checked out by a professional.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if a brand is willing to put their name behind a pre-owned product, that says a lot about their confidence in its quality. And it would definitely make me feel more comfortable buying used.
Exactly. And it's not just about offering guarantees and warranties. It's about extending the brand's responsibility for their products beyond the initial sale. They could offer repair services, refurbishment programs, even take-back schemes to ensure their products stay in circulation for as long as possible.
It's like a whole new level of customer service, but for pre-owned goods. And it fits perfectly with that whole idea of a circular economy, right?
Absolutely. It's about keeping products in use for as long as possible, reducing waste, and minimizing our impact on the planet. And brands have a huge opportunity to lead the way in this transition to a more sustainable model.
So it's not just about saving money or even finding unique pieces anymore. It's about making conscious choices that benefit both our wallets and the planet. And those across engages we talked about earlier, they seem to really get this, don't they?
Yeah, they're totally on board with this whole conscious consumption thing. They're the ones driving a lot of this growth in the secondhand market. Remember, they're motivated by both savings and ethical concerns, And they're not afraid to put in the effort to find those unique pieces with a story to tell.
And it seems like their values align perfectly with this idea of a circular economy. They're all about reducing waste, extending the life of products, and making more sustainable choices.
And that's where brands can really connect with these consumers. It's not just about offering a cheaper alternative to buying new. It's about tapping into that desire for quality, durability, and uniqueness. It's about creating a story around pre-owned products that resonates with their values.
So how do brands do that? How do they create a narrative around pre-owned products that's both appealing and authentic?
Well, for one, they can highlight the history and heritage of their brand. They can talk about the craftsmanship and durability of their products, showcase the timeless designs that have stood the test of time. It's about appealing to that nostalgia and appreciation for quality that a lot of secondhand shoppers have.
I see what you mean. It's about creating a sense of legacy, a connection to the past, and a story that goes beyond just buying a product. But it's not just about brands, right? I mean, policymakers and regulators also have a role to play in making the secondhand market more accessible and trustworthy.
Absolutely. They can create policies that encourage both buying and selling pre-owned goods. Think about things like standardized quality checks, clearer consumer protection laws, even tax incentives for secondhand purchases.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's about leveling the playing field between new and used goods so people feel more confident choosing the sustainable option.
Exactly. We need to make it easier and safer for people to participate in the secondhand market, whether they're buying or selling. And that requires a collaborative effort between brands, policymakers, and consumers themselves.
It's a fascinating challenge, isn't it? How do we create a system where buying pre-owned is not seen as a compromise, but as a smart, sustainable, and even stylish choice?
It's a paradigm shift, for sure. But it's a shift we need to make if we want to move towards a more circular economy and reduce our impact on the planet. And the good news is, it's already happening. People are starting to embrace the secondhand lifestyle. And with the right support from brands and policymakers, we can really accelerate this transition.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities. Imagine a world where buying pre-owned is not just a trend, but the norm, where we value quality and durability over disposability, and where we see the beauty and potential in things that have already lived a life.
And where every purchase is a vote for a more sustainable and equitable future. That's a world I want to live in.
Me too. But before we get too carried away with visions of the future, there's one more aspect of this whole secondhand movement that we need to explore. And that's the emotional connection we have with the objects we own, especially when they're pre-owned. I mean, there's something special about owning something that has a history, a story to tell. It's like these objects carry a piece of the past with them, a sense of the people who owned them before. And that's something we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've talked about the economic and environmental benefits of buying secondhand. But there's another layer to this, right? That emotional connection we form with pre-owned objects.
Oh, definitely. You know, when you buy something brand new, it's like a blank canvas. It's yours to make your mark on.
Right.
But with secondhand, there's already a story there.
Right, it's like inheriting a little piece of someone else's life, their experiences, their memories.
Exactly. You look at a worn patch on a leather jacket or a scratch on a table, and it's like, I wonder how that got there. I totally get that. Like, did they spill coffee on that book while reading on a rainy day? Was that chair a favorite spot for cozy evenings? It sparks your imagination.
It gives each piece character, it makes it unique. You know, in a world of mass-produced everything, that's really special.
It is, and it connects us to the past in a way, too. Like with vintage clothing, you're wearing something from a different era, a different style. It's almost like time traveling.
Totally. And there's something to be said for the craftsmanship of older items, too. Things were built to last back then.
They were. It's like owning a little piece of history, a testament to quality and durability.
And that's something a lot of people are craving these days, you know?
Yeah.
A break from the fast-paced, disposable culture.
I agree. It's like a yearning for authenticity, for something with substance and meaning.
Exactly. And that's what secondhand offers. It's not just about saving money or being eco-friendly. It's about finding those unique pieces that speak to you, that reflect your personal style and values.
So it's not just about buying things. It's about curating a collection of objects that tell your story.
Precisely. And that's what makes secondhand shopping so exciting. It's a treasure hunt, a chance to discover those hidden gems that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the secondhand market in France, I think we can all agree that there's more to it than meets the eye. It's about smart choices, sustainability, but also about connecting with something deeper, something more meaningful.
Absolutely. And it's a movement that's gaining momentum. People are starting to realize that the things we own say a lot about who we are and what we value.
So, the next time you're thinking about buying something, new or used, ask yourself, what story do I want this object to tell?
And remember, sometimes the best stories are the ones that have already been written.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this journey of exploration. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.